Hi guys, welcome and welcome back to the podcast. I've been meaning to watch that. I'm your host Monica. We are back again. New week, new topic, new guest we could do every single week. And this week is a very special episode. We are actually doing an interview with an up-and-coming filmmaker, and we're going to be talking about his independent production company that he has out of Dayton, Ohio. So I'd like you guys to please put your hands together and welcoming Michael Box, who is the president of Echo Eterna Productions.
Yeah, that's right.
Yay!
Yeah.
Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. How are
Thank
you
you.
doing?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm doing really well. Yeah.
Awesome, that's great. I was very interested in doing this interview with you because while I was looking up Echo Eterna Productions, a lot of the stuff you had online was really cool, and it really did spark my interest. So
Mhm.
I wanted to know a little bit about your background and what led you to co-found Echo Eterna Productions.
Um, well, for most of my life, I've been a writer. When I was in high school, I was yearbook and editor of the newspaper and, things like that. I wrote for the local newspaper for the city, wrote for a couple magazines. And, I had this drive. Some of my favorite novels were very inspiring to me, to get out there and create stories that people could connect with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always had this kind of drive to be a writer. Years and years went by, and I took a couple detours as far as college and just personal life and things like that. And then eventually came back to writing. I started to write my first novel, and it just really wasn't going the way that I had hoped.
Mm-hmm.
And about that same time, one of my great friends, Patrick Haig, had approached me about a screenplay that he was writing.
Cool.
And I was just like, yeah, well, tell me more about this. And he actually was wanting to film this himself, and he had me look over it and try to help pare it down to something that he could manage as far as a filmable screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when you are writing a screenplay, it may be overly ambitious to the point where, yeah, you could make this movie, but it's going to cost you $20 million.
Right.
Or you could start paring some things back and scaling it down and make it for, under $50,000 as an independent filmmaker.
Right.
That's where we went with. I helped him rewrite the screenplay. And at that point, we established a deeper connection with our friendship. We had been friends for many years at that point. We had played in bands together. I'm a musician. He's a musician. And at that point, we just deepened this relationship of collaborative creativity. And we've been creative partners ever since. I've known Pat for about 25 years. We've been working creatively for most of that time. So he's got the director spirit. He's very vision focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got the producer spirit where I'm let's get this done and figure out how to do it in a relatively budget friendly way, but, maintaining the scope and the vision that we have. Both of us are screenwriters. So it just really kind of fell into place. Our love of music, our love of dystopian science fiction novels, things like that really helped to gel our creative relationship into something that really worked well collaboratively together. So we shot that on 16 millimeter film. It was a very ambitious project. And we hired professional crew, sound, lighting, cinematography. But we didn't hire professional actors. We had friends and friends of friends who came on board to help with the acting. And, we were really proud of what we had, what we were able to create. But the standard that we were shooting for just really wasn't on that level. So we pared that down to about a 20-minute short film. We do have a feature film length version, but the 20-minute short film we feel is something that shows the vision of what we had, and maintains some of that integrity. And we kind of look at that as our film school. Neither of us went to film school, and that was our student project in a lot of ways. It was a really great learning experience. We learned how to manage a set, how to manage cast and crew, the editing process. We learned about how to direct, a production of that size, and what it takes behind the scenes to make those things happen. So we're really proud of the effort that we took with that, the results that we got from that. And we took all of that and spun it into Echo Eterna Productions, which is our full production crew, working on our feature film project that I may have told you about already, but it's called Speakeasy. And it's a dystopian project with a music bent to it. It's about a band of musicians living under an oppressive authoritarian regime, where your self-expression and artistic expression has been regulated to the point where most people aren't making art anymore. And so it's because we're both musicians, it's a really important project to us. We're writing all the music for it as well, and the band that is in the movie, we're going to have them record versions of the demo songs that we've written. So it'll be the real band from the movie perform the songs, but we'll have the demo version that we recorded as well. So it's a lot of, like I said, it's very ambitious, but everybody that we've pitched it to thinks it's a cool idea, and we've just really been hitting the pavement, trying to get the word out and raise some awareness so that we can get some funding for it.
That's amazing. Honestly, everything you said is spectacular. I love the idea of, you and Patrick being musicians yourself, and then having this idea to, take the screenplay that Patrick wrote to create a film, and then imbue your love of music within this movie. It is ambitious, but through ambitions bring a lot of rewards. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously you guys are like, you're all in. I think that's really amazing. And I also love the fact that, you guys learned how to make a film, how to manage a crew through experience. And I think that's really astounding, because a lot of times people feel like they have to go to school, or they feel like they have to have connections in order to make a movie. But you guys just like kind of taking that leap and, doing it through trial and error. I think that's really amazing. Can you share some of the lessons that you learned through making this film, like through your own experience, what you've learned, and what you would share to like other filmmakers who may be like listening or watching and they want to take on that challenge themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't go to film school. My degree is in organizational leadership. And Patrick didn't go to film school. He went into music video production. And he did a stint with a corporate job making video projects for a corporate entity. But that doesn't mean that you can't turn that into narrative film work, if that's something that you really want to go for. Film school's not necessary. It does give people a step up, absolutely, because they're learning techniques, they're learning the glossary of terms that you use on a set. Those things are being ingrained in them. They're learning screenplay writing as a storytelling as a there's tech methods and some people would say formula to how to write a screenplay, to tell a story that's connects to people, right? You just can't. I mean, some people can write a wandering story that goes all over the place, and it turns out to be incredible. but most stories need to have, the 3 acts that are pretty standard to a story for a movie. They have to have, rising action, and they have to have a central conflict, and those things are what we expect from a story. So you learn all that stuff, through an education in film school.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of guys and gals that start off in film school, they're able to get their first camera package through film school. So they have a working camera with, a light set and all the things that they need so they can go out and make their student film. They get all that through film school. Yeah. So you're not starting from scratch. Mm-hmm. When you're done with school, you have gear and you have the connections from film school. You have a lot of colleagues that you went to school with that you can call upon for help and assistance and be crew on your projects, and they'll ask you to be crew on their projects. So film school is very beneficial. It's not something that we did, and in some ways I think that put us a step behind some of those people, but it also didn't make us want to create a project from the cookie cutter mold that going to film school might put you in that position for. We tried to be a little bit more experimental. We tried to do things a little bit differently. We still took things seriously as far as storytelling and lighting and cinematography and all the things that you would learn that way. But it gave us a little bit more freedom in that we weren't beholden to these ideals that were given to us from a professor that we respected, or we had a filmmaker come in and talk to us, and we were able to go out on our own and make decisions, good and bad, and then learn from those. Because honestly, the struggles and what some people would call failures, that's where you learn. You learn by getting yourself back up and trying something different. Mm-hmm. So I think that not going to film school has had its benefits and its setbacks, but we've learned to balance those and learn from the whole experience, as a whole. Having a good grasp on storytelling was always part of the fundamental for us. Pat's a great storyteller. I'm a great storyteller. And the films that we've watched, the films that we hold in high regard, they all have really interesting ways of telling a story that connects to an audience. And so we were able to take those examples and really apply them to our experience. Some of the things that, I would advise new filmmakers is just go out and shoot things. Just go out and start making, set yourself a goal of, I'm going to have by the end of the summer, I'm going to have shot a 20-minute short film, mm-hmm. and just go out there and do it. Whether it's going to be an experimental art piece, or it's a one person in one setting, giving a monologue, just go out there and shoot it, because it's going to teach you something. And in this world of content driven media, mm-hmm. You'll have something to show for your effort, for your work. You'll have started a portfolio that people can look back on and say, oh, well, I saw that you did this. Do you have anything else that you're working on? Mm-hmm. So just go out there and create, just like like a musician, just like an artist, painter, just like, somebody that works with fashion design. You have to go out and just create. And, I tell my wife, and I've told Pat, I'm happiest when I'm creating something. I feel the most fulfilled when I'm creating something, whether it's with my hands or with my mind, mm-hmm. as long, whatever it is, as long as I'm creating something, that's when I feel the most fulfilled.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because hands-on experience is really the best teacher, because mm-hmm. once you do kind of get out the world and, do your best with whatever you have, that's really when you utilize the skills and the talents that you
Yeah.
want to use. Because sometimes when you leave school and you're so used to a certain structure, that
Yeah.
structure is something that can hinder your creativity and you feel beholden to it, like you said.
Yeah.
So in the way
Yeah.
that you and Patrick were able to kind of set out and do your own thing, it's really inspiring. It's very reflective of like, Quentin Tarantino, because he started filmmaking at 15 and he started doing
Yeah.
it like on his own. And
Right.
like Christopher Nolan is the same way. He started doing it at a young age.
Right.
And, Christopher Nolan, now an Academy Award winning director, shows
Right.
that experience sometimes can be the best teacher for you. And, Quentin Tarantino himself also started his own production company, making
Sure.
his own films the same way that like Mark and Jay Duplass make films and
Yeah.
TV shows from their production company as well. And it's something
Yeah.
that they kind of do like on their own, that they set out to do, because, it's great to have backing. It's great to have like
Mm-hmm.
an education, but oftentimes if you're able to be, if you can do it yourself, like you said, and someone can see that you're able to create something on your own, then they'll
Yeah.
be excited to see like what else you create and what else you make. And I am
Absolutely.
interested. I'm interested to know, like, do you guys have any like inspirations, like any directors that, or like, anybody in the film industry, or maybe someone in your personal life that like you and Patrick look to, that kind of like inspired you or pushed you to create this production company?
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned, Tarantino. I'm a dialogue guy. I love really well written dialogue. Tarantino, Aaron Sorkin, they're kind of the kings of dialogue as far as I'm concerned. Greta Gerwig writes great dialogue. I like her dialogue a lot. Diablo Cody writes really wonderful dialogue that's punchy and full of attitude. And I also, as far as directing goes, I'm not much of the director, but I do have a vision when I write the screenplays. Like when I'm writing a screenplay, I have a vision for what it looks like. And I tend to be a little bit broody. I tend to be a little bit on the darker side of things sometimes. So, David Fincher is definitely an inspiration for me. Zodiac is one of my 5-star movies. I think it's Incredible. Social Network is one of my 5-star movies. I think they're both beautifully directed, well paced, well blocked. Everything about them is perfection as far as I'm concerned. Tarantino and Nolan are both up there. Darren Aronofsky is one of my big inspirations. I remember watching Pi when it was first available to me, and Requiem for a Dream. The Fountain is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, even though ratings online have it really low. I think it's a beautiful movie, a beautiful story, and it's very experimental for a love story, but I think it's a beautiful film. I am also a big fan of kind of niche directors like Terry Gilliam, who, if you've ever seen Brazil, 12 Monkeys, those are some of my favorite movies. I love the way he directs and how he has this vision for weirdness. He likes to use fisheyes a lot, and he uses like weird close-ups on people and skewed angles. And David Lynch obviously is, when I talk about weirdness, David Lynch is the king of weird.
Right.
So there's a lot of directors that I look to, newer on the block directors. I love Jeremy Saulnier, who did Blue Ruin and Green Room. There's a Green Room poster behind me. It was one of Anton Yelchin's last movies. And they're very twisted and human. There's a really like rooted in like human desperation and even depravity that he's able to explore that I don't think I've seen before in that way. So I really enjoy films that push me in that way. And those directors are not just inspirational, but like I would say that a part of who I am as a storyteller is credited to being raised with filmmakers like that, having access to films that they've made. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because A lot of the directors you named, like you said, they do tend to push the boundaries when it comes to cinema because
Hmm.
oftentimes, they are kind of considered auteurs of like their work. And
Sure.
I do appreciate directors, like David Lynch, who want to create films that like speak to people and
Yeah.
aren't like other movies. Films are different. And I did see that a lot when I was kind of like looking into Speakeasy, which is, the film that you mentioned that
Hmm.
Patrick had written for. I absolutely love the concept, the near future sci fi, which is part music road trip, and it's about a punk band
Hmm.
named the Riot Police, which is
Yep.
struggling under an oppressive authoritarian system, which I think is
Hmm.
really cool. And I also love that it explores the underground music scene as well, because in the same way with independent filmmakers that create movies that are unlike typical movies that you may see in a cinema, underground
Yeah.
music tends to create music and sounds and like speaks to certain themes that you don't hear in like, radio pop music that like everybody
Yeah.
listens to in like the top 100. So
Right.
when I was looking into Speakeasy, I thought it was really cool, and I love the fact that you listed Aldous Huxley as one of your inspirations for the movie
Sure.
because I love Brave New World. I think it's a really great book. I reread it a
Yeah.
lot in high school, so I would love to know a little bit more about like what inspirations besides like Aldous Huxley or like the you and Patrick's experience making music, what
Hmm.
other inspirations you guys have behind Speakeasy, and what is something you really want to say through the creative expression of this film?
Well, I think that with Speakeasy, the one of the key themes or ideas is uh, the struggle to create when the odds are against you, or the powers that be in your life are trying to keep you from creating. I think that, as far as humanity goes, I think that being able to create something with our minds is something that like separates us from other animals.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of being able to create anything is like innately human. And if you're asking somebody to push that down and stifle that, then you're asking them to hide a part of their humanity. And so for me, a story about the system, you know, controlling how we create, or if we are able to create, if we're deemed legal, that what we create is legal. It just seems like a very relatable story for most artists, but it's also a social story about living under a system that you feel like you want to fight back against. And how do you do that, in that kind of a climate? Is it safe to fight back? Is it safe for your friends and your family if you fight back? And how do you navigate those kind of questions? For the world of Speakeasy, um, we knew from the very beginning that it was going to be music centric.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we knew that the idea of the bands, not just the Riot Police, but the other musicians in the underground movement, that it wouldn't be safe for them to be performing in large venues that are the public. So that's where the concept of like a 1920s prohibition period speakeasy
Mm-hmm.
came about. Like they would have to hide how they perform, and they would have to be very cautious about who comes in to see their performances, and what kind of network they create. So those kind of things were very important to us,
Mm-hmm.
about kind of creating a tone and a vibe that presented what this world would be like. I don't think that it's a stretch when we see certain things on the nightly news to say, "Oh, this is not possible to have to have our rights taken away to this extent. That's not possible."
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it feels like it is. And would you be prepared to to enter into this world and continue as an artist and somebody that wants to put a creation of your own out into the public, or do you want to be a cog in the machine and
Right.
live a safe life?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us have to ask those questions of ourselves all the time. So, not to get too political, but it's like, I don't think that the world of Speakeasy is very far off in the near future. I think that it could happen in a soon future if we're not willing to stand up and say, hey, this isn't okay. So those kind of things are important to me. The underground music scene is also important to me because, yes, the band, the Riot Police, they're a post-punk band, but they're also networking with hip hop artists, noise pop artists, just all different kinds of musicians. And there's always an interesting connection between musicians of any genre. There's a respect within the music business in any genre. If you're a punk band member, you're going to stick around and listen to the hip hop artist because you respect that mm-hmm. person's art. Not just that you respect them, but you do, but you respect their art.
Yeah.
And so like the networking of different musicians in this underground movement is a really interesting idea for me because it brings together people who might be culturally different, socioeconomically different, experientially different, and gives them a place where they're all a part of the same network, a part of the same crowd. Maybe they've all felt like they were the out crowd, and now they have a place where they're all the in crowd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really amazing, and I love the title, especially because of the double meaning. Mm-hmm. And I do agree with you on the respect that artists have among one another, because I do remember, I think it was a while back when Chappell Roan was first kind of getting bullied online, and yeah. I think it was the artist Ethel Cain, who is a folk pop singer, who kind of spoke up about that, who
sure.
is someone who's always been pretty outspoken in terms of what is going on politically in America. So yeah. I've always seen that kind of camaraderie between musicians as something that's very important and amazing. And I think that experience with musicians and seeing that in rock music, especially because rock music is inherently a rebellious form of music, I think that's a very interesting aspect to bring into your film. And I am curious to know a little bit more about the characters or the mm-hmm. other members of the film, if you kind of dive into the plot a little bit and kind of go into the music aspect of it, because you did mention that you guys are going to have a real band playing the demos and the music that's playing in the film. Yeah. So I would like to know a little bit more about the aspect of it.
Yeah. So Patrick and I and our friend Dan Benham, we wrote one track already that we've recorded with the help of our a music producer, Mikey. What's Mikey's last name? Chappell?
Yes.
Yeah, Mikey Chappell in Dayton. And so what we'll do is we'll take these songs that we've written, and then the actors that we've cast. One of the important aspects for us was that they weren't just great actors, but they were also really solid musicians as well. Mm-hmm. Because as a musician, it's really one of those pet peeves of mine when I see a musician on television or a movie and that they're not playing right. what you hear.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when somebody takes a drink from a coffee cup and you could tell that there's no weight in it. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in there.
Yeah.
There's just a weirdness to it. It feels uncanny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were, from the very beginning, we were we want the characters to be played by real actors who are also real musicians. And surprisingly, we lucked out and found amazing cast members for all four of the members of the Riot Police. And we're really excited about the four of them. We have some amazing actors for some of the secondary characters as well. It's just one of those things where you don't know how it's going to turn out, and then when you get these people, you start seeing their faces when you're working on the script or you're working on details of the script, and you're yes, this actor is this character, you know. So that's always really cool. As far as the characters go, I can tell you a little bit about the band, the Riot Police.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 4-piece band. It's led by a guy named Weston, and Weston is kind of an idealist, and he's he wants to put out the best music that he can, and he wants to challenge himself and challenge his band members, but he also wants to challenge the audience a little bit and not just give them the same factory created, AI generated radio friendly music that they're all hearing from everywhere else.
Yeah.
And so he's always in pursuit of this like unattainable perfect song in a way. So he's a little bit of a dreamer, but I think it's because he's so focused on the art of it. He's definitely one of those guys that's he's okay being a starving artist because at least he's an artist.
Yeah.
His sister Sky is the drummer. Weston's the lead singer and guitarist. Mm-hmm. Sky is his sister. She's the drummer, and she's a little bit of his voice of reason. Kind of brings him back down to earth sometimes. Mm-hmm. And creatively, Weston might be the leader of the band, but from a managerial decision-making standpoint, Sky really gets shit done. And so she's really the one that kind of keeps the band together and keeps them moving in a solid, direction. Kind of like what a drummer would do, keeps the band moving. And so then we have the bass player. His name's Lucas, and he is probably the most punk of the band. He's very anti-authoritative, very he has a lot of anarchist perspectives and nonconformity type perspectives. He's a little angry and jaded and cynical, and in a lot of ways, he's very much like I was at that age. And I really do relate to that character a lot. He's also a bass player, which I'm a bass player, so maybe I did write a little bit of myself in that character.
Right.
But he loves his friends, but he'll never really tell it. He'll show it, but he's kind of a hard candy shell kind of guy. Once you're on the inside, though, that he's your ride or die. He'll be there through anything. And he's definitely the guy that you want if a fight breaks out. You want him on your side.
Right, exactly.
And then the last member of the band is the youngest member, and her name's Izzy. And she is kind of like a rhythm guitar, but she like provides like ambient guitar, very dream rock sounds. I don't know if you're Radiohead very well, but like the kind of stuff that Johnny Greenwood likes to do in Radiohead albums that adds layers of texture to the music. I think that's a good way to explain what Izzy does, what she brings to the band. She's the most playful. She's younger than everybody by a couple years. She's kind of goofy and silly, and a little bit naive, but at the same time, she is the heart. She is the one that if everybody's having a down time, she's the one that's like, we need to keep moving, let's keep going. And so they all contribute to the life of the band in their own way. I really love the characters, and the actors that we've recruited for those characters are perfectly suited for those characters. I love them. I don't see anybody else in those roles.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I love hearing about the characters, everything that's like coming together for the movie. Everything sounds amazing. And
Yeah.
I know that you guys are currently in pre-production right now. You're seeking,
Hmm.
funding and
Yeah.
distribution. Can you kind of
Yeah.
go into like the current status of the project and like what are the
Y-
next steps to like bring it to the
Yeah.
public?
I mean, we've jokingly said that if we had the funding, if we had the money for the budget today, we could start shooting in a couple weeks. Um, Obviously, that requires us to get everybody's schedule on the same page and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But really, that's what we're waiting to do, is to secure funding. We've met with a few investors. We've met with a few producers to help us kind of uh, create a game plan for how to manage that and navigate those. It's difficult waters to tread, especially without a studio.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you get advice. Everybody has an expert opinion, you
Right.
know. And so you get advice from one person that says, yeah, you should do this, but then you get advice from another person that says, well, have you considered this?
Mm-hmm.
And they might be contradictory, ideas, and you're kind of left there saying, well, which one really meets our needs? Which one
Right.
works for us? But yeah, at this point, the funding aspect is it's been a difficult road, and I am hopeful that we get an opportunity to pitch to the right producer, to pitch to the right investor,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, "Oh, this sounds like the project that I've been looking for,"
Mm-hmm.
and I have three investors that I'm going to introduce you to, and we're going to get this thing bankrolled. I'm hopeful that will happen. And that's what keeps me moving. That's what keeps me, going forward. In the meantime, our actors are all working on other projects. They're all working actors and musicians. And so like they have to be out there and do their thing. And, Pat and I are, kicking around ideas for other things that we can be working on as well. Instead of just sitting in a holding pattern waiting for the funding,
Mm-hmm.
there's other things that we could be doing, working on other screenplays, working on marketing and branding for Echo Eterna as the larger corporation, as the larger entity.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that we could be doing to position ourselves for new opportunities or even opportunities that haven't even been brought to us yet that we should be considering. So yeah, I mean we're always writing music. Pat's in a local band that they're finishing up their latest record. We're always working on something. There's always some form of creation going on
Mm-hmm.
within the Echo Eterna team. We have two producers in Columbus, Via Lorraine and Taylor Smith. They both do production, and Taylor does graphic design and sound and score for us. And then Via does some casting and production. And I think she's going to actually be doing some voiceover work for some of the characters, and even some on-screen acting for one of the roles. So we've got a lot of people that we're connected to that we're also working on other projects, trying to get those things moving. So it's always, there's always something that I look at my task list and I'm like, okay, I can tackle 2 of the 20 that I have,
Right.
for today. So there always seems to be more, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It keeps us busy. It keeps us creative.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I would like to know a little bit more about like, what do you feel like is I guess if you can give me a general sense of the scale or the ambition you guys have behind the production of this film?
Scale as in distribution.
Yeah.
Okay. I think a lot of people, when they do an indie project, they probably assume that they're going to get a release on a streaming platform, and that's about as the end of the road for that. If you go on Amazon Prime or Tubi or any of those streaming platforms, there's tons of indie projects that just kind of go there, and I won't say to go there to die, but they go there to get minimal views. And I don't want that for our projects. I want theatrical releases. I want international distribution. I want to, one of our ideas is we want to take Speakeasy on a college and independent theater tour and go on the road with it and do a Q&A. And, you're buying a ticket for an indie film company to talk about the movie, but also to see the movie. And so, kind of not just encouraging people to go out and look and watch indie films, but to support indie productions as well. I think that's a big piece of what we would like to do. But like I said, a theater run, international distribution. We live in a time when the physical home media isn't really something that a lot of people gravitate towards anymore, but I definitely see us putting out physical media because that's what we grew up with, and we have a nostalgia for it, but there's also value to having something that you can hold and read the liner notes or the back of the box and have, this physical piece of collectible item or whatever. There's something to that I really enjoy. So I can see us doing a physical run as well.
That's amazing. I absolutely love that. I love the ambition. I love the vision that you guys have, and the idea of doing a tour around like different colleges and theaters is actually really cool.
Yeah.
Just not wanting to just like put your art out on like Tubi or Amazon Prime, which it's fine. However you want to distribute your film is fine.
That's great for a lot of people, and I have nothing against anybody that does that. Eventually, we would probably end up on a streaming service too. But I would like to try some other things first. I don't have any negative thoughts about any indie production company that's putting out stuff straight to streaming. The ultimate goal is to get as many people to see your project as possible. And if that's the best way for you to get as many people to see your project, then absolutely go for it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, because there are a lot of times where people feel like if you just put it out, people will come. But sometimes you do need to kind of, I don't know if the right term is a siren call, but in some way people need to know like what you have created is out there so that they can seek it out.
Do like a grassroots movement and get word of mouth out there. And, Patrick's not as big a user of social media as I am, but social media can be an ally to an indie company like ours to help grow a fan base and grow people that are interested in what we're doing. So in spreading the word, it's relatively what's the word I'm looking for? It's invaluable as far as I can tell to getting the word out. So and it helps you to build a network of people and keep people connected and all that kind of stuff. So it's working towards a goal is probably the one thing I would advise any new filmmaker to do, is to set your goal, and then how are you going to achieve that goal? Don't just set a goal and then like that's it. Like you have to know what it takes to get there, and so set that goal and then lay out the plan for how to achieve it.
Right, absolutely. And I did want to know, I would love to hear your pitch for Speakeasy, if you don't mind, like, giving a quick pitch in case there's someone, like, watching or listening who might be interested in your project, or maybe who knows somebody, because I would love to know just, like, how you go about, like, talking to investors about this film, because I think it's a really awesome concept, and I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I won't say that I'm prepared to do that today, okay. Because I usually use some interactive elements to do the pitch.
Cool.
But what you've used as far as the synopsis, we usually go into the character. How I describe each of the characters. We talk about the actors that we've got that are attached to it. We talk a little bit about them, some of their credits, and let the producers know, these aren't just, volunteers off the street. These are working actors who have credits. Mm-hmm. We have people who have been in major productions like Hell House LLC, in major studio productions like the Tom Hanks movie A Man Called Otto, mm-hmm. or the David Fincher Netflix series Mindhunter. We have people that have been in several big projects. One of our actors is a huge country music up and comer in the area. She tours nonstop, opening for big names in the country music scene, and she's excited to play this punk character that's like an alter ego to who she really is. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to see them connect with those characters in a fun way like that. So we talk about the actors a little bit. We talk about our experience as writers, as directors, as producers, and we show our sizzle reel, which is, I think that's available on our website right now. Yeah. That you can go and look at that production reel. And then, we talk about how music is a universal language, and it brings people together from various backgrounds. And it's something that we think is a huge selling point for a film like this, to have a band not just fighting a system, but also, providing art for people. And I think that people connect with music really easily. Mm-hmm. And so, and it also, there's a market for movies that are about music, that aren't biopics about a musician in real life, or aren't musicals. Yeah. Like if you look up movies about music, usually you're going to get a biopic. Mm-hmm. Like Timothy Chalamet was just in the Bob Dylan biopic. You get a biopic, or you get like a big musical like Les Mis, or Chicago, or Hamilton, or and this isn't a musical, and it's not a biopic. It's music is a part of the story. Yeah. And so we think that helps make it interesting for investors, because I think that they can get creative with how they would market that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do love hearing like your passion and mm-hmm. the drive that you guys have for making this film. And I wanted to ask you, because I know you had mentioned before that, like, as someone who's a filmmaker, I'm sure you like kind of keep a pulse on like pop culture and everything.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So one thing that I have noticed with the Academy Awards over the past couple of years is that indie films have been more likely than not to win Best Picture. You see it with like Moonlight, you see it with Parasite, you see it with Coda. It also happened this year with Anora, which swept at the Oscars. So I feel like there has been like definitely a wave of indie films doing very well with award season, and namely with the Academy Awards. So I did want to get your take on that as an independent filmmaker. I love that smaller budget, and when we say independent, what we really mean are small budget, small production company, films. Anora was a $6 million film. It looks great. It's a beautiful film. Mm-hmm. I think they spent $18 million on their Oscar campaign. Mm-hmm. So there's something to be said about spending $3 million on the campaign. Yeah. Or three times as much as your budget on the campaign than what you spent on the film itself. Mm-hmm. But
I do love that indie film has a way of putting a footprint on the larger market and saying, look, the studios are putting out 150, 200. This newest movie that Netflix is dropping with Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown, The Electric State, was a $320 million movie. That's incomparable to a movie that's got a $6 million budget. You can't how the idea that studios are willing to put that kind of money into movies that bomb, it blows me away. And what they could be doing is, instead of putting $320 million into one movie, they could be funding 10 $30 million movies and put out another great piece of art that is well received. And I don't understand the business side of that very well. Like, it doesn't make logical sense to me. But I do love that indie filmmakers are making waves. And some of my favorite filmmakers started as indie filmmakers. I mean, Tarantino was an indie filmmaker. Fincher was a music video producer. Aronofsky was an indie filmmaker. So I look at those people and I think, they are doing something that they love to do, and they're telling compelling stories, and now they get the chance to direct these multi-million-dollar versions of these, incredible stories. But it wasn't always that way, and they were always great storytellers. And so, like, with whatever budget you have, whether it's $2,000 or $2 million, if you're a good storyteller, you're going to be able to convey that. So I really hope that other indie filmmakers feel empowered by these other directors and productions, that they can also go out and kind of shake things up a little bit and show the larger market, like, hey, if you guys tried to produce a few more mid-level movies, then maybe you'd have a higher return on your investment. Maybe you'd have better odds at making an impact on the movie world in general. I do get frustrated with how high budgets have gone with some of these blockbuster films, and I think we're all a little bit
tired,
fatigued with these kind of productions. Right. No, granted, it's fun to go in and turn your brain off and be awed by a spectacle on the screen for 2 hours, but I think that the general audience is looking for something more than that anymore. I know the horror audience loves the lower budget films. Terrifier is a good example of that. People flock to that movie, and it's always been that way. Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity, like, those movies are record shattering productions because of what they were able to produce on such a low budget, but able to make in a global market. So I really hope that indie filmmakers take inspiration from these productions that have kind of shaken things up, and I hope that we see more indie filmmakers producing content that and projects that can hopefully inspire the next generation of filmmakers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree with you on that sentiment when you said that there are a lot of studios that are spending a lot of money on these big blockbusters because you are right. They could take like a $320 million budget and put it towards like 10 movies that are only 30 million to make, because you have movies like One of Them Days that was made on 14 million and it made 40.8 million in the box office. You have movies like Bottoms or like No Hard Feelings that are all like mid-budget comedy films that people go to see and watch, but they're not something that the studios, you know, make a priority when it comes to like their rollout for the summer. So I do agree with you in that sentiment. It would make more sense business-wise to kind of like cut down that budget.
Yeah. I like I said, I'm not the business guy as far as that goes. There must be a reason. So, you know, I don't know what it is, but you know, I prefer a smaller movie.
Right. Yeah, because a smaller movie, if the smaller budget means that there isn't too much going on, or, you know, you don't have to like kind of like, I feel like sometimes for me personally, when I see a bigger budget film with big actors, I kind of like prepare myself for it to be bad because there's nothing that indicates to me that it's going to be good besides the fact that you've hired these people and paid them too much to be in this movie that they probably don't want to be in. Right.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. I feel like there's an intimacy that is created on a smaller budget movie where, you know, the chemistry has to be there or else it won't come through on the film. And, you know, the passion has to be there or else it won't come through, because when you have, you know, the bigger budget, you can do more takes, you can do more post-production to make things, you know, to artificially create those tones and those vibes that you need. So yeah, I really do hope that indie filmmakers, you know, the 90s is when I grew up, and it was indie, you know, the indie filmmaking world was being set ablaze at that point, you know, with Kevin Smith and Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, and, you know, they were all, even, you know, Spike Lee to some extent at that time was, you know, there were indie filmmakers doing their thing and really having an impact on the filmmaking community at large. So yeah, I really appreciate those pioneers in the filmmaking landscape that have inspired me. So hopefully, you know, we'll see a new, you know, 2020 something or 20, you know, 30 explosion in the indie film world. And we see a bunch of new names in the indie film world that have an impact on a bigger market.
Yeah, absolutely. And
maybe Echo Eterna Productions is one of them.
Maybe. And I would absolutely love to see one of your movies in a theater somewhere, or it's like go to one of your Q&As. I think that would be incredibly amazing.
Yeah. Where are you located? I didn't even ask.
I'm in Atlanta.
You're in Atlanta. Okay. Well, we have one of our actors is in Atlanta. But we're in the Dayton, Cincinnati area, so maybe we'll have to, if we are able to, you know, be fortunate enough to do a tour, maybe we'll have to do a show down in Atlanta, and we'll send you an invite.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome. That would be so great. And also, it's been really great having you on. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Is there any last words you'd like to share with the listeners or the viewers?
No, just like I said, just go out there and create. Just, you know, if you one of the, I do have one. If you want to be a filmmaker, start calling yourself a filmmaker. Don't wait until you have something to present. Start calling, you are a filmmaker. And it really will change the mindset. It will change your focus. Let people know that you're a filmmaker. And, you know, get out there and create something. You know, in the meantime, you know, anybody can visit our stuff at echoeterna.com. We're on Instagram at Echo Eterna and Instagram at Speakeasy the movie. I also post on my own Instagram at Mike Wrights Movies. So if anybody wants to visit there. But yeah, echoeterna.com is a great place to find all of our socials and all of our other information.
Awesome. Okay, well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Michael, for allowing me to interview you and being here. It's been an absolute delight talking to you and hearing.
Thank you.
Of course, yes. And it's been wonderful hearing about your project Speakeasy. I'm very excited to see where the project will be going. Guys, you can check out all the information down the description down below. You can check out all our socials in the description as well. And don't forget to tell your friends and family about your new favorite podcast. I've been meaning to watch that. I'm your host, Monica, and I'll see you guys next week with a new topic, new guest that we do every single week. Bye.
Bye, guys.